All right, thank you, Vesa. Thank you, everyone, for attending the call. Welcome to the monthly SharePoint community call. By way of introductions, I think this session is really focused, as Vesa mentioned, on the Viva Connections Desktop experience, which we released very recently. By way of introduction, we are program managers working on Viva Connections, and we represent a large, global, and very excited team of product makers working on the product. So I'm Tejas. I'm a program manager on the SharePoint Experiences team. I focus a lot on SharePoint and Teams integrations, as well as working on the SharePoint portals and publishing system. I will pause for a moment and introduce Prateek. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, it's absolutely great to be here. I am part of the Viva Connections team and I'm a program manager. I work with Tejas and with a whole bunch of product people who are working together to bring this great experience of your SharePoint Internet inside Microsoft Teams. Very excited to be here and show it all to you today.
Awesome, thank you, Prateek. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about in this session today. So for today, we'll set a little bit of context first for our overall Viva portfolio umbrella. Then we'll narrow in on the Viva Connections product offering itself. But the bulk of the discussion will really be around the desktop experience, where we'll dive into feature details. Prateek will provide information there. He'll do demos, and then we'll talk about how to get it all set up and deployed. So I think by way of process, while one of us is talking, the other will moderate some Q&A in the chat, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we are able. Vesa, if you're able to maybe help point out things that we might have missed, that would be awesome. So Viva overall and Viva Connections is a big investment area for us and for helping customers with the solutions they need. So we want to get your support in this journey in 2021. So first, some context. So much has changed in the past year. Even as we start going back to work, how we work will be permanently transformed by the pandemic. Many organizations have adapted to the remote and hybrid work, but all this and the other change around us has demanded unprecedented resilience. One of the key insights from research in this area is that more than ever, people are the key to business success. So the statistics you're seeing on screen and countless other research shows that when we invest in our people and we focus on improving the employee experience, we can directly influence employee engagement, retention, customer satisfaction, and a company's financial success. As a result, there's never been a bigger need for technology, data, and insights that are designed to enable a great employee experience, regardless of your location. Employees want to feel more connected, more aligned to their company purpose and mission. We all want to grow, make an impact, and make a difference. Leaders and communicators need modern ways to reach, engage, and develop their employees. And IT needs to be able to quickly enable this modern employee experience without having to rip and replace all their existing systems. An employee experience platform puts people at the center by bringing together systems of work with systems of support into an integrated employee experience. It provides people with the resources and support they need to succeed and thrive no matter their location. It also needs to provide an open and extensible platform that is customizable and works with your existing systems and tools. Our vision is an integrated employee experience that brings together all these resources into the natural flow of everyday work. So for us, that platform is the recently announced Microsoft Viva, which you might have heard about. To start with, Viva will have these 4 modules that you see on screen: connections, insights, topics, and learning, and we'll be adding more in the future. And each of these builds on existing capabilities in Microsoft 365 and are experiences that are integrated directly into Microsoft Teams, as you can see from the images here on the slide for each module. Connections is a company-branded employee app in Teams that customers get to curate and configure. Viva Connections is an ingredient brand, but customers can make it their own. It's a gateway to your employee experience with quick access to data and tasks, personalized news, communications, people, and resources, and we're designing it for both desktop and mobile workers. It provides a single curated employee destination that can be configured for specific roles like frontline workers. Connections builds on existing capabilities in Microsoft 365 like SharePoint and Yammer, And as someone who has worked on creating our modern intranet experiences in SharePoint, I think it's an exciting extension of the work we've done and offer the potential for great customer experience and value. Connections can also act as a launching pad to the other 3 Viva modules. So we are creating connections for integration into all of the Teams experiences. So the client apps across desktop and web, and the mobile apps for Teams on iOS and Android. The desktop app, which Prateek is going to cover in the next section, was made generally available just about 2 weeks ago at the end of March. As with many of the major releases we've done in the portals and pages area, we've run a private preview for this desktop app release and have seen great customer usage and feedback already throughout the development phase. The Viva Connections mobile release for iOS and Android is also well underway and in development. We're dogfooding this internally, and we'll have more to share with you as we make progress building it out. Our plan is to release the mobile app for Connections later this summer. So with that, let me hand off to Prateek and take us through the Viva Connections desktop experience.
Thank you, Tejas. Hello, everyone. Again, I'll be talking a little bit more about the Viva Connections desktop experience. So like Tejas called out, this experience allows you to bring your modern SharePoint intranets directly inside of Teams with your company branding, with a brand that users in your tenant already understand and relate to. And it offers a great modern in-place experience as users navigate to different kinds of resources and content within your company intranet. We see this as a great opportunity for users who are primarily living within Teams to stay up to date with news, information, updates about what's going on in the company and actually feel connected to the company, especially in the current times that we are living in right now. I'll start talking a little bit about the specific benefits that we offer in the Viva Connections desktop experience today, which stand out from what would be a third-party implementation that you're able to achieve using the Teams extensibility framework. The key benefits that we want to talk about for the Viva Connections app for the desktop release that we have just completed in March is that it is not just an ability to bring a SharePoint page inside of Teams. It offers a whole lot more. So starting on the left or on the top, the company icon that you see on the top is not just the brand of your app. It's actually a great way to help users navigate to other intranet resources within the company. And I'll be demoing this in a little while as well. So it brings together components from the SharePoint app bar experience, including your company curated global navigation links, the user's most recommended sites and news. So they can actually navigate to other important resources in their company as opposed to just using the site that was pinned for them by default. The site also offers a full screen header and navigation experience, which is great when you're using extended headers and mega menus and stuff like that from SharePoint. So all of that capability functions beautifully right within Teams. We've also tried to bring in the search experience. So we know that one of the reasons people go to the SharePoint intranet portals is to start searching for content. And now users can start their journey right within Teams. So as users start searching for content in the Teams search bar, they are presented with suggestions on searching their intranet instead of searching Teams. And clicking on that actually shows them their intranet results in the browser. We've also done some smarts in the experience to help you collaborate. So one of the key user flows that we wanted to enable was the ability for people to share the content that they read. So if you come across an interesting news post from your company, you want to share it, and Teams is a great collaborative platform with lots of chats, group chats and channels where you want to bring that content. We've made it really simple for you. So whenever you are on any SharePoint page within the Viva Connections desktop app, you will see actions on the right side in the site header specifically show up inside the Teams client. One of those actions is the ability to copy that link and drop it inside any chat or channel so you can easily start conversations about that experience with your users.
So Tejas, there's a lot of questions related on the app bar, and is app bar required for Viva Connections to work?
So great question. So the when Prateek shows the demo, and actually the slide that you still might see on the screen, that nav panel that you see in the left for the connections experience is what we refer to as sort of the best of the SharePoint app bar. So it will include pieces like the global navigation, So for it's a set of curated links that the corporate communications and IT configures for the org. The section for personal site wayfinding, so followed sites, and then another section for news. So these kind of are 3 pivots that you would see from the SharePoint app bar. If the SharePoint app bar is not yet in your environment, the global the navigation panel won't yet exist. So that is a requirement. So as the app bar rolls out, once you see that in your environment, then you'll get the full fidelity nav panel experience inside of Viva Connections Desktop.
Excellent. And we can see the screen being shared. Before you Prateek start, there's a good question from Prenny related on is there costs related on Viva? And if we focus now on the Viva connections, so is there an additional license which we need to pay for?
I'll preface my answer with neither Prateek nor I are licensing professionals, but our understanding is that there's no additional license required for Viva Connections Desktop. So if you have the standard E3 plus licensing, you should be good to go. But there are additional details I think that we've published.
Yep, that was in the published blog posts and documentation. So basically, Viva Desktop Viva Connection Desktop is part of your existing SharePoint and Microsoft Teams license. So no additional costs. You can just enable this scenario. But Prateek, we can see the screen, and it was pretty responsive. So take it away.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm starting with our documentation page because this is a great page for you to get started when you start thinking about the Viva Connections experience and how you want to bring it into your tenant. It has a lot of the details that we just called out as well, and has a great video as well where you can look at the entire demo experience and how to set this up. I want to point out specifically bullet 4 here, where there's the link to the PowerShell script that you need to use to start creating your app package for Viva Connections Teams Desktop. So if you click on this will take you to Microsoft Download Center, which downloads a PowerShell script. And you will need the latest version of the SharePoint management shell to be able to run that script. So I've already downloaded that script and I have this open here with me. Essentially just trying to show you what the experience looks like a little bit. So this is step 1 of that experience. Just as I started running the script, the first thing it asks me to do is to ensure that I have a site that I want to pin in Teams, and it runs a little bit of validation on the site to ensure that I have the right permissions and everything. So I have this site here, which is the home site of my company, contoso-demohubs.sharepoint.com. As I kind of bring that in and press enter, you'll see this validation show up here. And it'll open up a sign-in dialog box, where I will need to provide my credentials to ensure that I have the right permissions, as well as the site is a modern SharePoint communication site, so that it can be allowed for pinning in Teams. If you pick a site which is not a modern SharePoint communication site, those will not be supported. And as I complete the sign-in process, you will see a bunch of other information that the app requires from me. So, for example, the name of the app, and I can say Contoso and kind of proceed through these steps to create an app package. The app package that gets created once you provide all of this information, including the icons that you want to use inside of Teams, is stored on your desktop. So I've basically run the script once and I have the app on my desktop. So let me switch back to Teams Admin Center here, where you will be performing the next set of steps. So the Teams administrator in your tenant is then required to come to Teams Admin Center. I am in Teams app and the Manage Apps section. You will see here a button for upload, where you are required to upload that app package that you've just created using the PowerShell script. So since I've already done the upload, the app is already actually available inside of this list, and I'll just show that to you in a minute. Once you upload the app, it behaves like any other Teams line of business app. So it can be managed how you have been managing other apps in terms of permissions and setup policies. And one of the things we highly recommend is that you pin this app by default for all of your users and at the top of your Teams app bar, and that becomes your company branded entry point into the experience. So I'm here on setup policies, and I'll go to this global org-wide default policy. and you will see the Contoso app show up as soon as the page finishes loading. The Contoso app shows up as the first app in the list on the Teams app bar. In order to achieve this, you basically need to go to Add Apps and select the Contoso app that you just uploaded in the Manage Apps section, and then you can move up, move down. You can customize the app bar for your users. If you think this is an app that is specific to certain user segments in your tenant, you can create setup policies which are not global, say policies which apply to frontline workers or specific geographies or specific business units, and pin the app only for those users as well. And then the app will only show up for those users by default. You can do similar things with permission policies to define who has access to the app from the Teams app catalog. So that is the entire set of steps that you are expected to perform to create the Viva Connections desktop experience and make it available for your users. And now I will just switch to the Teams experience here just to show what that experience looks like for the end user. So as the setup policies flow through to the end users, you will see that they get honored here on the right-hand side.
Questions while we wait for Prateek to return.
Good. So there's a targeted release, first release discussion. I think this relates on the app bar being visible for some. So just maybe it's just good for me to just point out that the app bar is partly rolled out and currently in hold, but it will be continue rolling out soon, and that will then improve this experience for Viva Connections Desktop. Any other good questions, Tejas? What you want to raise from the channel?
It feels like I've responded to a couple with Teams is sort of duplicating my reply, so I'm not sure if they've come through. There was a question around whether Viva Desktop is referring to just the Teams desktop app or other. We refer to the Viva Connections Desktop really to differentiate between the experience that you would get in Teams rich client on the desktop or in the web browser. So if you're experiencing Teams in either of those two, Viva Connections app will show up in that experience in the app bar that will boot up the portal site that you have specified in your configuration of the app. And that's really meant to differentiate from the mobile native applications that are going to be shipping later in the summer timeframe. And that's really why we're using labels like desktop versus mobile. The experience that you're talking about here, that manifest building process that Prateek was showing you from PowerShell, will build out an app manifest for Teams that's specifically targeted to desktop experiences, which is the rich application and browser.
Go back on your slides, Tejas, and then we'll get back on the demo.
Yes, let's do that.
And there's a good question from Stacy related on, can we enable that in the future not using PowerShell? And we'll come all of this.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I will talk to that in the slides as well. So assuming you've seen that wonderful demo from Prateek, and if he comes back, we'll come back to it. Let's talk about the deployment. There are really two components that are required here that spans a couple of different personas. So for the experience that we've released at the end of March really requires a SharePoint admin role as well as a Teams admin role. Prateek was showing you kind of both parts of it. Part one was the building of the app manifest. So if you take the tooling that we've published on Microsoft Download Center and provide some of the relevant information to that script, including the URL for the site that you want to pin in desktop, in addition to some other required metadata, the icons and the branding, the naming that you want to use. That script will then generate an app manifest. And then the Teams admin for part two will take that app manifest and upload that into Teams Admin Center, and then configure it with the requisite policy. If you want to target the app to a specific set of users or pin it in a particular position for all users, you can use the Teams Admin Center to take care of that policy. So the question that was asked earlier, are we going to move away from PowerShell? The answer to that question is yes. So in the summer timeframe, when we make the mobile app for connections available, we'll be combining the setup, configuration, deployment experience into a single app manifest. It will be a first-party app, so this is slightly different from what you see here in the Connections Desktop experience that we have today, which results in the creation of a line of business app. So the app that we'll have in the summer will be a consolidated first-party Teams app for Viva Connections, from where you will configure and deploy the app across desktop as well as mobile. So in addition to the mobile experience itself in summer, we'll have this enhanced configuration experience, and we'll also be bringing some additional enhancements to the desktop experience as well. So this is the video that I was talking about, which shows kind of the admin experience. And I know that this session was not focused at all on mobile, but I did want to share a little bit of a teaser on some of the work that we're doing for the Viva Connections mobile experience. So again, this is coming in the summer. We're not going to do a deep dive here, but I wanted to give you a sense for what we're working towards. We're building a native organizational branded app experience similar to what you're seeing in desktop, but planned to be delivered directly through the Teams apps in iOS and Android. And the app experience really consists of three major pivots. You'll see the names above each of the images on the screen. These are working titles and they're subject to change. The first is the dashboard, and the dashboard is the company home for the employee. It's a centralized destination for the employees to find and act on company tasks and specific action items for their job. And it's targeted so that the right roles and people see the right tools. In the second column, you'll see the feed, and that's where you can explore what's happening from across the organization. So you can publish content and news across popular applications to a single location, accessible to all employees. You can highlight critical information so everyone has what they need to stay productive and safe. And it's really meant to help strengthen relationships across organizational silos. And the third pivot is resources. And this is the pivot where you can surface relevant organizational resources, links to intranet content, line of business apps, and more. And you can think of a great starting point for the resources. We'll be pulling through, global navigation. So again, we think about the best of the SharePoint app bar that we were talking about in chat a little bit earlier. That will also power some of the experiences that you see here. And one of the enhancements that I was talking about that will come in the summer as well, we noted that as part of our announcement, let me just build out this slide, is that we're also working on a dashboard web part. So when you build out the dashboard for the mobile experience, that dashboard will be available as a web part that you can deploy on sites in your tenant. So it's a great way of bringing a connection between the mobile and the desktop experiences together on desktop, so that employees are able to consume that content in both places. I'll pause here to see if Prateek has made it back on the call.
He's back.
Hey Tejas, I'm here, and I apologize for how Teams has been acting up with me today. Obviously, demo gods are not super happy with me. I am also presenting my screen.
Yeah, screen sharing is working really fast, so that worked. So
okay, so I can walk through the rest of my demo in another couple of minutes if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Awesome, thank you. So I believe we were talking about the end user experience. Until this point, you were able to actually follow through the demo. So we have the Contoso branded app that shows up in the tenant here. And as I scroll through this, you'll see the rich SharePoint experience just shine within the Teams client as well. And as I click on the app bar, you will see the global navigation show up. So it has all the company curated links. It has your recommended sites and news. And just like you can do in the SharePoint web, you can kind of go to specific locations. So if I want to go to the HR site of my company and get some information from there, I can go to Contoso Works, which is the name of HR site. As long as it is a modern SharePoint site, the site loads beautifully right within Teams. So I can get the information I need, maybe check out the next set of corporate holidays that are there in my company, and press back to go back to the landing experience. And it's as simple as that, just simple, easy for users to get the information, access their internet, and kind of move on. Here's an example of someone who wants to read this particular news article about new store opening guidance. So again, you will see it's a beautiful modern page that renders greatly inside Teams. And as I kind of read through this, I can maybe think about other folks in my team who should have access to this. So there's this copy link button for me right here. And as I press that, it gets copied. I can go to a chat or channel, paste it, and then start conversations about this particular news item with other folks in my team as well. And then the last thing I want to call out is the search experience. And when the user is on the Viva Connections desktop experience, if I start searching for a particular term, say platform, you will see the new search suggestion show up here, which says search in Contoso. This is picking your app name and showing that here as the name in the search string. And it gives a hint to the user that it will open the SharePoint site. So as I click on this, you will see that since I was in the browser, it opened another tab. But even if I was on the Teams client, it would have actually opened the browser. And this will show you results for the term platform inside my company's home site experience as well. And they'll start popping up just as I speak right now. So that is the very, very high level view and a quick demo of the Viva Connections desktop experience showing up inside Teams.
So Prateek, don't stop sharing. A few pointers here. Just call out. Can you show the global navigation? So how it's been visible. And there was a question, I think it was John Collins who asked that, hey, is the app bar visible when SharePoint site is surfaced inside of the Teams using the Viva Connections desktop experience? And the answer is no, but when you click the personalized logo, then this experience will be shown. And right now, as the app bar is currently being rolled out gradually, and for those where the app bar is not yet available, this experience doesn't yet work. So it has a dependency on the app bar being there. But what about using Viva Connections without the home site? What would be the experience with that? Can either one of you, actually Tejas or Prateek, answer on that? I know the answer already, but I'm just.
Yes, I can answer that. So, so there's two parts to the answer. The first is, can I pin a site which is not a home site? Yes, it is possible. It is not something we recommend you do from a SharePoint internet guidance standpoint, but as long as the site you are trying to pin is a modern SharePoint communication site, it is supported. You will not be allowed to pin team sites or classic sites from SharePoint into this experience at all. On that note, classic links that exist on your internet will also go out to the browser. So only modern links will continue to open within the Teams client. So that's the first part of the experience. Yes, you can pin sites which are not home sites into your into the Viva Connections desktop experience. The second is what happens to the global navigation, right? Now, the way the global navigation is set up is that it requires the existence of the home site in your tenant. So I actually have it open here. So if I go to settings, you will see this global navigation panel show up here, right? Which is where I'm going to be configuring a lot of my global navigation links. Now, this setting is available to site owners on the home site of your tenant only. So if you want a global navigation experience in Teams, you will be required to have a home site, which may not be the site that you pinned. So as long as you have a home site and you've configured global navigation, that will show up here. In case you don't have a home site and hence you have not configured a global navigation experience, this panel will still work. So you will still continue to see my sites and my news show up. And those will be the only two sections available to your users in the absence of the global navigation experience, which is not configured in that tenant. As Vesa kind of pointed out earlier, the panel itself that will show up in your tenant only when the SharePoint app bar is available in your tenant. So this bar needs to be available inside of your tenant, and only then the panel shows up. After that, if you do nothing, you get my sites and my news. If you actually go set up a home site and configure global navigation links, then those links also start appearing inside this panel. I hope that answers.
Yep, that was really good. One question which was actually answered, there was a question in the internet actually earlier today, which was related on list experiences in the Viva connection. How does that work? Do you have an experience, or can you answer that? The modern lists inside of Viva Connections.
So it is totally possible for you to go to sites which are team sites and access any content from within that team site as long as it's a modern experience. Right here, I actually don't have in this demo tenant a list set up, but you should be able to, for example, if this is a team site, you're seeing the team nav show up here. So this is fully supported. If there was a list here in the site nav, if I clicked on it, it would open right here and it would allow me to consume the list easily. I believe editing items on the lists may not be supported since that requires the possibility of the edit toolbar being available. Tejas, can you confirm that?
Yeah, I had answered to one of the questions earlier. Just edit scenarios in general, we are looking at them. Primarily the focus for, if you think about sort of top of intranet experiences that we bring in, the Viva Connections is really meant to be that sort of employee engagement, all up broad communication site types of scenarios. Those were meant to be primarily consumption based. Now, that being said, there are team collaboration scenarios and other places where editing makes sense, and we are exploring that capability. No real announcements to make at this time in terms of ETA or anything, but it's definitely something the team is looking at.
Yeah. It's one step at a time to let's say, the ultimate unified experience across the different things. And until we're there, then it will fall back on opening a new tab automatically in the browser. Good. I think that's at least all of the ad hoc questions which I have. Should we go back, Tejas, on your slide? You had still a few slides.
I did. There was one question I was responding to in parts in chat, but I figured I'd mention this as well. So there's the whole question around to use the home site or to not use the home site. I think, again, I think our guidance from Microsoft is Viva Connections is really meant to be the top of intranet experience. And of course, you can take the desktop experience and sort of pin any modern communication site. But the reason we recommend using the home site is that is the place where if you think about sort of top of intranet scenarios, that's where you're going to be programming your global navigation that will surface in the app bar in the web, as well as in the nav panel inside of Teams. And that glimpse that I showed you of the mobile, the native mobile experience as well, that dashboard that you saw in the sort of the left picture of the 3 mobile pictures that I showed, that dashboard is actually sits inside the home site also. So as you start thinking about the different experiences that will be tied across desktop and mobile across connections, again, it's really meant to be sort of the top of intranet scenarios, which is why we strongly recommend that you use the home site.
Excellent.
I see a question that came through on audience targeting. Yes, so one of the benefits of the SharePoint publishing system that it all plumbs through into Teams. So if you're using audience targeting on links in global navigation, that will actually function as expected inside the Teams experience. And then, as you know, we have a host of web parts that support audience targeting as well. So all of the content that you're seeing on the screen right now that Prateek has, there's actually a couple of web parts here that in the news web part that are leveraging audience targeting today. So that entire content management system and portal and publishing system actually flows right through into Teams. Including the extensibility model for partner opportunities and all of that, so you're able to build your own. That's right. I always forget to plug that, but that's absolutely true, right? So any customizations that you do to leverage the SharePoint the framework for custom web parts, connections to external data sources, all of that stuff that you're familiar with and able to do, all of that flows through so long as you use our supported framework as a platform. Cool. There's one thing what I wanted to actually say in here, which is we can't go too much detail at this point yet, but as part of this experience, you can see that mobile experience and all of that. These will be extensible as well. So there's a partner opportunity using SharePoint framework, and we'll get more detailed on all of these opportunities, new component types and experiences during the, I think in build later this spring. So. Just to point out that those are not locked as a partner or a customer. You can define the experience completely. Yeah, that great call out, Mehta. Yeah, the dashboard, you can make it your own. We'll have some out-of-box cards that you can lay out on the dashboard, and then obviously the entire ecosystem is sort of at your disposal when it comes to building out additional custom experiences. So last slide in the last couple of minutes, this is really more of a calls to action slide. Now that the desktop experience has been made generally available, work with your customers to ensure that they've got their intranet information architecture all right, with a home site that's been anointed, so that taking care of things like creating the global navigation. And then walking through the deployment steps. I won't rehash that here. There's the hyperlink here. So I think with that, we would like to thank you on behalf of the entire Viva Connections team for taking the time to spend with us today.
Excellent. There's a lot of familiar faces on those pictures, which is good. So it is and that's not, of course, not even close to the full set of people who were involved in the Viva Connections. So unfortunately, we can't get all of the people in the one picture. Now, just for the close-up of the day, so thank you, Tejas and Prateek. Really, really great stuff. A lot of new opportunities, and we're super excited on this joint, let's say, experience together with Microsoft Teams and ODSP, and we're getting closer and closer with these experiences, one step at a time. So even the features and the upcoming features related on mobile, that's just the start. And there's a long roadmap related on getting all of this more aligned and say better experience for the end users.